Hi all, welcome to my review of Pearl. This is Ty West's newest movie and is a prequel to his big hit horror movie from last year, X. I have no idea why this film took so long to be released in the UK. I know this came out theatrically 6 months ago in the States and there was nowhere to watch it on demand here or anything. I kind of just forgot all about the movie because there was no date announced for it. And it was only last week when I was having a look, I wanted to see if there's anything good on at the weekend to go and see, and saw, oh my God, finally we're getting Pearl here. So I was really excited to see this still though, because X was my favourite horror movie of last year. I had such a good time with that film. I just thought the tone they got with it, it was inspired by a lot of those classic 70s slashers, but just done here with a really great cast. It was really twisted, really fast paced. I just couldn't recommend that movie enough. I've told loads of people I know about it and they've loved it as well. And to find out that Ty West was actually filming that back to back with this trilogy of films, it had me really excited to see what he was going to do next with Pearl. And yeah, so finally having seen it now, let's get into my thoughts on it. So Pearl, of course, was the old woman in X, and this is her backstory. This is her growing up during the World War One era. And the first thing that I'll say that I absolutely loved about this film is how the fact that it was set in a different decade, Ty West has tried to capture that feel from movies around that time, and he's done it extremely well. So this is it kind of feels like you're watching like Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz or something, with all the really bright colours and the way it's filmed. And yeah, he just managed to capture that kind of vibe extremely well. So you do notice that tonally, it's so different to X. It's hard to believe it's even by the same guy. Other than the fact, obviously you connect it because it's Mia Goth and she has a very distinct style about the way that she acts. But just in tone and style alone, this is a very different film. But at the same time, works really well as a companion film to the story that we got in X. The main thing about Pearl, though, is that Mia Goth is just outstanding. And I think I first saw her in that movie Cure for Wellness a few years ago, and I'd never heard of her before that. And I just thought she played a character where she brought so much intrigue to it, and she was just very captivating on screen, very unique. She has something about her that she's able to portray so many different emotions. She's able to be mysterious whilst also being quite loud. Something about her is just really, she's just so interesting to watch. And to see that she's getting leading roles now in horror films like X and Pearl, I'm just having such a good time watching her in these movies because she is unbelievably talented. Like, I really do feel like, obviously the awards don't really tend to recognise movies like Pearl, but I can't think of an actress in the last year that I've seen that's managed to come out with a performance like this that Mia Goth has in Pearl. It's just, the fact of a range of emotions she kind of has to portray, and the fact that she's this very twisted character. She's very charming, but at the same time, she's scary as hell as well. And, even in this film, she has this one scene where she has to do this like 5-minute monologue where she's kind of erupting all of these things, like talking about all of her feelings on life and everything to one of these characters. And yeah, you just can't take your eyes off her. She's absolutely incredible in this role. And even though the movie in itself is very good, I think it wouldn't work the same without her. She just absolutely carries this. I think as well, when you go into Pearl, you should expect something very different to what you got in X. Like, X is a much faster paced film and it's a lot more of a straight up horror. It's a horror slasher. Whereas Pearl kind of feels a little bit more like a psychological drama. And it's a slow burn. It's a slow burn of a film. But it's very interesting, kind of getting to know and understand the backstory of this character more. Obviously, who she turns out to be if you've seen X. So this is not a good character, but I did like the way they kind of portrayed the complexities of her here. The fact that she lived in this kind of horrible home life with parents that didn't really love her or care for her, and just the way they kind of show her story of like her isolation on this farm, I think just helped to paint a picture of seeing why she kind of became the way she did. And I found it very interesting as well that her mum also knows about these problems that Pearl has. So tries to keep her away from society, which obviously makes her even more crazy. So I did like how they kind of made you feel for the character, even at the, it's kind of a tragic story in a way, even at the same time, you're having to watch her do all these horrific things to other people. So I really like how they portrayed Pearl here. And I'm quite interested to go back actually and watch X again, knowing what we know about her. I found there was something actually quite a bit scarier about Pearl than there was with X as well, even though X is the more fully blown horror movie. I think there's just something about the nature of watching someone's descent into a complete madness, which just gets under my skin more. And just especially, again, the way Mia Goth portrays this character and just the way this film is directed, there's a lot of really unsettling scenes here. Like, I won't go too much into spoiler territory, but there's a particular scene near the end where she's following this character out of a house with an axe. And I can't describe to you just by saying that how unsettling and scary this scene really is, but it's this kind of one tracking shot, and just the way it's filmed and the way it's executed. I was actually surprised by how scary it actually was. And yeah, it's just moments like that that really stay with you. And I think it's as well because you get a chance in this to kind of connect with Pearl on a few levels, because you really get to know her character. So when she suddenly does something really unhinged, it kind of really does take you aback. And you can see in this film, like, there's loads of interactions with characters where they start to realise there's something really up with Pearl. And you can tell that they are uncomfortable being around her, and you can really feel that when you're watching this. And as I say, just even though it's a much more slower burn film, like this one doesn't have the gore like you do in X. So until right at the end, it does get crazy at the end, but it just takes, it's a much slower burn, more tension-filled build-up to it. But I think in terms of being disturbing and scary, I think this one is actually more effective than X. So I don't want to go into too much more detail because I don't want to spoil it for anybody that hasn't seen this yet. But I would actually say Pearl is just as good as X, but a very different kind of movie. Tonally, it's quite different, has a very different style, and it's a much slower film. I would say it's more of like a character study, but equally as good though. I'm actually, to have as a little side piece to go along with X, given this backstory for this character, I think was a really interesting idea. You have to see this as well for Mia Goth. And I have to say, I'm just so excited to see Maxine, which has been announced now. I'm not actually sure, God knows when we're actually going to get that to come out here. It's probably going to be years before that comes out in the UK, given when Pearl's come out. So I'm just, so excited to see this now. I think this is going to turn out to be one of the best little horror franchises we've had in a long, long time. So yeah, I would 100% recommend that you go out and see Pearl, especially if you liked X. And it's going to be a 4 out of 5 from me. Really great horror film. So thank you very much for watching my review of Pearl. Please do let me know in the comments as well if you've seen this. Whether you preferred this or X. I can definitely understand people kind of going either way on this, considering they're both, they're both brilliant films, but they're very different. So do let me know in the comments which you preferred and your thoughts on them. Look forward to my next review, which is going to be John Wick Chapter 4, which is coming out here this weekend. I'm really excited to see that. I'll be doing a review for that, and then I'll also be doing a ranking video for all of the John Wick films, which I'll get out for next week. Please do like and subscribe if you've enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time.